The one giving the final speech is Kreshner, one of the nobles, and his assistant, whose name is Ojas, reports that the hunters have found our location and that there are observed movements outside. He tells her, "Okay, let's go. Leave the soldiers to finish dinner." Outside, we see Yoli approaching a car, and Professor Willard tells him, "Let's start the mission." At the same time, a guitarist named Phil is trying to make a living when a huge man named Fallen interrupts him and says, "Come on, the mission has begun." The five of them head toward the mission site. The only girl with them is named Dossie. They reach the palace and see guards watching Yoli. Without waiting, he attacks the first guard, takes him and goes down to the center of the palace. He finds vampires dining, so he draws his weapon and slaughters them one after another. His squad says the idiot is acting alone again, so everyone jumps in to help. Within 15 minutes, the vampires are wiped out. Professor Willard says Kreshner is missing. Phil tells Yoli, "You won't break this habit. We're a team and must cooperate and follow the plan." Yoli replies, "I'm alive and you're alive. That's enough. No problem." The team you're seeing is called the Jerez, a squad of monster hunters operating under government orders. They board the ship to go on their next mission. Professor Willard tells Yoli, "I trust you, but remember we face monsters and our strength isn't being a unit. In the future, focus on your team's safety." In Japan, the police arrive at a house and find dismembered corpses. The police say, "Surely the criminal is from the Hyokoya group." The Jerez arrive in Japan by government order. We learn that Yoli is originally from Japan, but not the capital. He lived in a small village. The whole city is talking about the murders. Colonel Iba reads the news. Colonel Iba, a Japanese army officer, is searching for the criminal. His assistant tells him, "It's almost certain that Kataki is the perpetrator, but strangely that group usually leaves their victims intact, which didn't happen in this case." The police reach Baron's house. Baron is a Japanese merchant with many international connections. The Jerez present themselves as merchants wanting to start a new venture with him. Baron says to the professor, "You came at a bad time. Unfortunately, there are troubles in Japan." Professor Willard tells him, "Listen, right now people are afraid of the night because of the Hyokoya group, an outlaw faction aiming to return the country to the samurai era. But actually they're thieves and scoundrels who rob the rich and murder family. One of them, Kuretake, was captured and sentenced to death, but he escaped from prison. Everyone fears him because he's famous for targeting young people." Yoli was walking around the palace and sees the family's daughter, Ryoko, practicing swordsmanship. She seems to like Yoli. The Jerez came to Japan because information indicated Kreshner was hiding here. Meanwhile, Major Iba reports to his superior that the incidents are odd. Probably Hyokoya is connected. They also have Kuretake, who was imprisoned. Ojas tells Kreshner she freed him to carry out her plan, and now thinks she doesn't need him anymore. A police officer buying watermelon returns home and hears a noise from next door. He looks and finds a murder at the window, and behind it appears a vampire. The police go to the crime scene and, after reading the case files, the Jerez feel that Kataki had no connection to the recent crimes. They suspect he's dead, and someone freed him to frame him. Ojas walks the street and passes the police and anyone who might suspect her, except Yoli, who is standing in an alley and passes by. He says to her, "I smell blood on you." Ojas attacks, her hands transform into claws and daggers. At the same moment, the police arrive. She cuts through their bodies and flees. The Jerez pursue her from all directions. A vampire carriage arrives and takes Ojas away. The rest of the Jerez chase after them, but Yoli, who had been pretending to be like Batman, jumps from place to place with legendary agility, lands on the vampire carriage and forces it off the road so it flips and explodes. He leaps into the fire and kills the other vampire. Only Ojas remains. He faces her in a fierce fight and deflects all her strikes. Suddenly his eyes turn blue and she says, "Impossible, you're one of the sirs." She grabs a spear and severs her arm. She tries to flee, but a girl flies. She is one of the nobles. Yoli pursues across the bridge, and at that moment a sniper from far away fires a shot. The projectile strikes and she falls into the river. He wakes and finds himself before a little girl who, when she sees him, calls, "Father." Father, the doctor discovers Yori in the river and decides to save him. The doctor has a young daughter and tells Yoli that he's been asleep for 2 days. People came to visit him. Professor Willard then enters and scolds him. "This is the second time you've gone off plan." Yoli says the beast's power controlled him. Willard tells him, "Learn to control that power because if it controls you for longer, you won't distinguish between us and vampires." Yoli asks, "May I stay here until my wounds heal?" In the middle of the night, there's an attack on a home and everyone inside is killed. The police arrive and find a samurai and his group appear and finish off the police squad. This group is the Hyakuya party. The gang leader is Nawatoru, who's been targeting scientists for a month. Surely the transformation is due to a foreign organization using them to target Japanese scientists. Major Iba suspects the Jerez. He doesn't know their truth, but a foreign organization would be suspicious. Professor Willard arrives at a cafe and asks the club to bring him a lemon drink from the back room. When the club says the password, he didn't expect he'd one day use the waiter. He tells him, a foreign group is funding the party. Is Hyokoya connected to Krishna or not? I'll gather more info and tell you. At that time, Ryoko is training more to become stronger because the family has no male children and she is the sole heir. Krishna, who treats Aojas, tells her, "You're a disgrace before sirs. You'll go on the next mission and correct your mistakes and succeed." Phil, walking by the doctor's house, finds research papers being sent to Professor Willard. When he sees them, he's shocked. Research papers on a method to create an artificial heart. The scientist who was killed by Hyokoya was a biologist interested in artificial blood. He rushes with Dasi to the doctor's house where the power goes out. Phil says he senses them. Vampires penetrate the house. Phil fires shots at them and Yoli with his sword cuts down the Ojas appears, seizes the doctor and attaches an artificial arm and leg where the severed ones were, then washes them. A fight begins against Yoli. She fights with her hands and leg while he defends despite his injuries. The doctor moves because he's turned into a zombie under Ojas' control and approaches his daughter, lifting her. Yoli says he must finish quickly. He strikes her leg and breaks the sword. The broken sword injures and is driven into the doctor's neck, killing him. Ojai says, "I will die by the hands of sirs," and her body burns and turns to ash. Not only her, but the doctor also turns to ash. Any vampire or zombie that dies turns to ash. Suddenly, the house explodes and fire spreads quickly. He climbs above the house and sees a ship. He tries to chase it but loses a leg and a man appears with twin daggers. Yoli is greatly surprised. Professor Willard arrives after the ruin and carries Yuli and Phil away before the police arrive. Major Iba receives a report from the police about the disappearance of the doctor. They found no one at the house except his young daughter, who said her father turned to ash. Yoli sits alone and remembers his childhood. He lived in a mountainous area and was trained to hunt with his brother Mika, who was the good hunter. When they returned with the catch to village, people cheered, and his mother celebrated Yoli's first hunt. The village chief says good times are fragile, especially since their tribe has begun to dwindle. The only children in the village are Yoli and Mika. The tribe is likely to disappear. Their mission was to protect the Cyrus ship. Unfortunately, the ship vanished. Their tribe currently has no purpose. The Sir's tribe is on the brink of extinction. Professor Willard enters and tells him not to worry about the little girl. They found a family who will care for her. What happened to the little girl reminds him of the past. Vampires did to her what they did to him. Yoli wakes and hears a sound below. He goes down to see what's happening and finds blood everywhere. He sees vampires for the first time. His mother is on the ground bleeding and tells Mika, "Take Yoli and run," and she gives Yoli her scarf and tells him to flee with his brother. She collapses dead. The two leave and see vampires slaughtering the villagers. The vampires launched a campaign to annihilate the village to seize the Cyrus ship. Yoli and Mika are the only ones who managed to escape, though the vampires chase them. Mika tells Yoli, "Don't use your gun because our best ability is scent. The scent of the Baron will weaken your power." Suddenly a vampire appears. Mika confronts one after another and kills the first, but they manage to leave him behind. One attacks and stabs him in the back. Mika tells Yoli to run and kicks him, throwing him off the cliff. Professor Willard tells him that one of the nobles is the one who can turn humans into vampires. A vampire named Fatal pursues Yoli, pins him to the ground, and cuts his throat. At that moment, Yoli gets furious and his power escapes his control. He transforms into the Sir's form and with one leap slashes the vampire in two. He falls to the ground awaiting death. Professor Willard appears and sees the child thrown in the storm. He decides to take him and heal his wounds and has cared for him since. When he learned Yoli's story, he offered to help him if he wanted revenge for his brother and mother. "Join me and I'll make you part of the Jerez." As we saw, the Sir's tribe possesses wolf-like power. They can heighten their strength when their eyes turn blue. Yoli tells the professor he saw his brother yesterday and has been thinking about the years of killing hundreds of vampires. Can he kill his brother? What will happen if he attacks his comrades? He can't decide. The professor can't give an answer and lets him walk away. Hyokoye has a vampire in their ranks who says, "You've caused problems recently, so Mr. Kreshner decided to stop dealing with you." Now Watoru gives him a flying foot soldier and says, "We are samurai and you need us. It's not us who need you." He kills the vampire and tells his group, "Prepare yourselves. The time to exterminate the monsters has come." Ryoko goes to the Jerez and invites them to dinner at her father's tonight. Everyone of course agrees. Major Iba meets one of his leaders and learns that the army is interested in a new special weapon. If they obtain it, it will change Japan's future. The police reach one of Hyokoya's hideouts. There are traces of body parts and ashes. Surely these are the parts they stole from the scientists they killed, and the ash indicates they're working with vampires. Why are the vampires collecting body parts? We must split into two groups to gather evidence, but first, dinner. The group goes to the Baron's house and talks about new projects while eating. Professor Willard says, "My men will go to a new client," some of them led by Yoli. In the forest, the army sees an experiment with a new weapon, a weapon capable of wiping out an entire battalion of soldiers. The weapon's designer is Kreshner. In the vampire headquarters, a noble named Graf talks about the Cyrus ship and says it's the only solution for the survival of the vampire clan. Two vampire women arrive and tell him that Kreshner began the mission. We learn Kreshner works under Y. Graph. In the morning, Yoli and the others set out for the mission. Yoko secretly follows them, showing interest in Yoli. The squad receives intel about Hyokoya's location, and they board the train to confirm the information. Professor Willard goes to the waiter to get the latest information, and we learn vampires are divided into nobles and slaves. The slaves are soldiers and can go berserk and be killed, while nobles are unaffected, and if you see them, you won't be able to distinguish them from humans. We learn that the Hyokoya party has a center in the capital because they lost their main partner. Their partner was Kreshner. At the same time, Hyokoya uses their company as a front to produce the super weapon, and oddly all the employees in the company are humans used by vampires to work for them. Naotoru responds to find Kreshner's whereabouts and is told about the new weapon and where it is located. Major Iba receives a call telling him the squad that went to examine the weapon was wiped out. Only the leader escaped and boarded a train to the capital. He moves immediately. At the same time, Yoli smells blood and tells Dracia there are vampires nearby and jumps onto the adjacent train. Ryoko sees them change trains, likes it, and hops into a car before it departs. The train now contains Yoli, Dracioko, and others looking for the leader. Yoli confirms there are vampires on this train. It becomes a train of death. In fact, Krishna was on the train with the doctor who manufactured the weapon. With Yoli playing with the children, he looks up and is surprised to see his brother Mika on the train. Last time he couldn't talk to him. Mika tells him there's a law in the vampire world that when we find hunters, we must kill them. His presence is against the rules. He says he couldn't kill his brother even after setting him on fire. He couldn't do it. Yoli asks why he joined the hunters. Mika replies, to take revenge, to avenge my family. We will avenge our family and the people who turned us into this. Mika says with this path, they may end up fighting each other and one of us may die. If you want to avoid that, give up your desire for revenge and forget the Cyrus ship. Meanwhile, Major Iba learns from his commander what happened. The weapon they had was tested on them. It eliminated all the soldiers and left only the leader alive to allow the weapon's transfer to the capital. So the weapon is currently on the train. Hyokoya finds Ryoko on the train. Suddenly the place shakes and the train stops because Hyokoya shoot an arrow at the engineer and kill him. The assistant is also hit. Security soldiers get off to confront them. Naotoru calls them weak and cuts them down with his sword, then enters the train because Kreshner and the other vampires are targeted there. At that moment, Kreshner says to Mika, come on, the special weapon will take charge of them, and the two escape. Naotoru enters the train and finds a corpse wearing strange armor. Suddenly, the corpse moves with clumsy motions as if it is just learning to move. Yoli, meanwhile, is helping the civilians get off the train and away from the battle. Naotoru faces soldiers near the corpse. A stray bullet hits the fuel tank and explodes. Naotoru and his men survive because the body pushed them away, but what he didn't know was that the scientist working with Kreshner was controlling that body. With a sudden movement, the body decapitates Naotoru. The command structure collapses, and it becomes easier for the secret weapon to hunt them one by one. This weapon was assembled from parts stolen from the scientists. They were all biologists interested in artificial organs. At the same time, the rest of the team arrives and helps Dracia face Hyokoya's group. Yoli climbs to the top of the train because he smells a vampire and reaches the tail of the train where he finds the secret weapon emitting a vampire scent. They fight fiercely and the scent appears. Mika tells Yoli, I told you to stay away from vampires. This is the last time I'll help you. Mika rushes at him and lands a right strike, and a mechanical arm flies off. He flees to repel the weapon. Another arm flies off and bullets blast, exploding its body and destroying it. The train flips, but fortunately no one dies. Mika tells Yoli, if you gain the power, I hope you'll kill me and maybe you can take it when you find the Cyrus ship. This ship can both kill and revive a person. News arrives of Hyokoya's annihilation. Finally, people will be rid of their evil. Graf sends a message to Kreshner. The ship is not in the capital and asks them to join him as soon as possible. But Kreshner says we must finish the insects before moving. The hunter matter must end today. Yoli tells the professor everything that happened and says, your brother is from Sirs. That's surely why they turned my brother into a vampire. No one can do that transformation except a noble, and surely his goal is to reach the Cyrus ship. He needs you to help. Raiko's father found out she left without permission and says as punishment she will not use the sword again. If she errs again, she will be prevented from leaving the house. Colonel Iba receives shocking news. His commander took his own life after witnessing what the secret weapon did. He couldn't bear the guilt of killing all his soldiers. All Iba can think about is vampires. At the cafe, Willard receives an important call and reads his gathered information. He hears a sound behind him and goes down to find the club in ruins. He says, don't be afraid. They couldn't bite me. He grabs the documents and reads them quickly, then informs the rest of the team. These vampires are attacking tonight. The team prepares. First, they evacuate the people in the palace, and then they seal all entrances and exits. Yoli goes to Ryoko. and tells her the water vampires are attacking the palace and asks her to protect the humans because she's skilled with the sword. She follows the order. Suddenly, the lights go out and the vampires attack early. He tells Yuli, I want to tell you my story because we might die on this mission. When I was small, I was walking with my family and we saw a man killing another person. He transformed into a wolf and attacked my family, killing them. Afterwards, I discovered he was from the Surs tribe and swore to take revenge, which is why I became a hunter. But when I met you, my opinion changed. What happened to me was just a coincidence. It turned out one of your tribe was the real cause of my family's death. They hear explosions from everywhere as vampires surround the palace in spinning leaps and break in. The hunters start hunting from afar, but the number of vampires is in the thousands and they are even coming down from the ceiling. There's no easy way to finish them. They fight hard. Kreshner watches what's happening with Mika. Yoko manages to gather all humans away from the vampires. Hyokoi's group continues fighting but is shocked when Kreshner confronts them. Suddenly, a giant fish enters the arena and shouts, I came to kill you myself. Mika storms in and takes flight. Phil and Yoli face Kreshner alone. Yoli frees Phil from Mika's grip. Mika and Kreshner strike him at the same time. A cannon shot shakes the ground and army tanks assault the palace. Professor Willard contacts Colonel Iba and requests support. The army opens fire and annihilates the vampires. Under such pressure, the vampires retreat. Kreshner tells Mika, finish the rest, and he leaves the place. Yoko says, how can the army storm my palace? He tries to escape but finds a dead vampire thrown at him. The army continues the extermination and the vampires can't mount a counterattack. Colonel Iba and the army entered for one reason only, revenge against Kreshner, who wiped out a battalion with his weapon. Yoli is still facing his brother and says, I don't feel like you want to kill me, Mika replies. It's impossible that I'd kill my brother. Mika says sadly that your revenge will fail in this way. The water vampires will reach the Cyrus ship. Yoli asks, where's the ship that disappeared 10 years ago from the village? No one told them that it was hidden by their father. He slaps Yoli. Be careful. You're the last Sirs, and there's a chance you're the only one who can operate it. Mika vanishes. The army continues and manages to destroy the vampire force. On the roof, Kreshner watches the events and Professor Willard appears. Kreshner says, hey, haven't seen you in a while. Willard fires his pistol and Kreshner reacts to the shots. The gun flies from his hand. Yoli reaches and tells him to stay away from the professor. He asks, you want to defend this man? You don't know what he did. If you want, I can explain. Long ago, we found a document about the Cyrus ship. It contained the ship's location and it is your village. And surely you remember what happened then. Yoli gets angry and his power erupts and he attacks Kreshner. Kreshner easily resists and even slashes Yoli's back in an unequal fight. He washes his shoulder. Yoli endures and with his hand breaks the sword. Kreshner says, I'll die by the hands of someone like you, and his body turns to ash. He jumps at Willard and is about to kill him but manages to control himself and says, why did you hide it? Willard tells him he saw the child Yoli fighting vampires and couldn't leave him to die in the snow and felt guilty for his past sins. If he'd saved the child, maybe he could atone. But in reality, he used him as a tool to achieve his goals. Yoli asks, is that all you have? Why did you destroy our village? Why was my brother turned into a vampire? Tell me. What is the Cyrus ship and why did they do this to us? The night ended, and when the police arrived, they found no bodies. The place was destroyed and burned, but there were no dead or even injured. Professor Willard says to Yoli, I discovered the Cyrus. I learned that your clan has been guarding the ship for generations. Knowledge and advanced technology are inside. My goal was to confirm the information, but the vampires wanted to exploit it. Yoli says, so that's why my father hid the ship to keep it out of vampire hands. The professor says the only ones who can defend and use the ship are the Sirs family, and there are none left but you, and perhaps a small chance your brother can use it. Yoli says we killed Kreshner. The professor replies, Kreshner was just a front. The vampire who truly wants the ship is why. Graph. At that time, he receives a message from the twins that Kreshner is dead, but Mika is still alive and on his way. Professor Willard sits at the inn and reports everything that happened to the judge. He hears a sound beneath and goes down to find Major Iba, who tells him, I came to see you and want more information about the Cyrus ship. Willard says, how did you learn about the ship? After his attack on the vampires, the army convened and demanded he join the mission. There was a former army leader responsible for finding the Cyrus ship who disappeared, and they could not reach him. The latest information said the ship was in Central Asia, and that there was a man with a lot of information named Willard. Willard tells him, unfortunately, we don't have much information, but be careful because vampires are looking for it. He also heard that Y. Graph appeared on a certain island. The island name is Ryo. He tells this to the Jures team and says, we finished the Japan mission and have Joe Harders to head to London. They board the ship and sail. 10 years earlier, after the village's annihilation, only Mika was left, injured, and Graph wanted him. So he turned him into a vampire. Mika arrives with the scientist to Y, Graph's location. Y Graph says, I've been waiting for you. Let's go into the cave. Yoli, who split from the group and went to the island alone, says I'm one of the sirs and protecting it is part of my duty. Professor Willard agreed with his decision and decided to take the team to a specific place. Yoli walks a bit on the island and enters a cafe where he feels someone approaching. He calms himself. The man sits and says, relax. The next round is on me. Don't be afraid, I'm one of you. I'm also a vampire hunter. Mika enters with Graf. The cave is deep and full of strange symbols. Why Graf tells him, you might not know but your villagers were the ones who drew these symbols on the walls, generations that guarded the Cyrus ship. That's why they sealed the ship here. More precisely, your father decided to seal it here. They reach a red lake and Graf says your father used a unique sealing method and sacrificed himself to lock it away, preventing humans and vampires from reaching it. The only ones who can break the seal are the sirs. He extends his right foot. Mika steps forward, and the lake burns his foot. He endures and continues. The pain increases. Why? Graf says, that's enough, go back. Mika says, no, I'll continue. Graf orders, and with a single motion, he controls Mika's body and makes him return against his will. It appears why Graf can control Mika. Mika pulls out knives and attacks him, but his body becomes paralyzed. Graf says, you're just a soldier under my command. Disobeying orders is forbidden. And he strikes him and he loses consciousness. As why? Graf has turned him, it seems he can control him completely. He says since the elder brother failed, I think the younger brother has a chance to break the seal. Yoli realizes who the man before him is, and that all his comrades and the vampire hunters have died, which is why he asked for support. Yoli says, I'm not the support. Graf says, then you came to search for the Cyrus ship. I'm searching for why. Graf and I have learned a lot of information. What do you think about cooperating to stop why? Graf? Yoli agrees. At the same time, Ryoko decides to run away from her father and leaves a note saying she's on her way to London. She decides to use her sword skills to save people from monsters. An old man living in his cave hears a sound from the forest. The vampires Yoli and the down ones were walking on the path. Yoli says something strange. I decided to walk with you even though I smell blood on you. The same scent I smell from vampires. Are you really a vampire hunter? The man replies, yes, when you kill many of them, your scent becomes like theirs. They hear the sound of gunfire from the mountain. The old man confronts the vampires and drives them toward the area where Phil emerges to protect the old man. And this is the moment he hears laughter from everywhere in the forest. The twins who are with Graf appear and attack with minions. He blocks them and they say, come play with us more. You must be angry at us because we killed your villagers and turned your brother into a vampire. Come, we'll take you to your brother. The two attack together and use bombs to distract and attack from different directions. The kid cannot defend or attack. The fog helps him to move alone, but his sister helps him. A vampire hunter intervenes and the two escape. The old man tells him, you're sirs. He says, my name is Yoli. He lifts his weapon and asks, what brought the son of Alexei here? Alexei, he knows the boy's father, goes with him to the old man's house to understand why he disappeared and what information he gathered. The man says, your position in the army is still reserved and you can return anytime. But I haven't finished my mission. Yoli says, I won't return. I still haven't finished my mission. The old man says, not all knowledge is given, but he gives Yoli a map that will take him to the seal. He gives him the last photo he took with his father to remind him of him. Yoli heads to the Sakin Mountains. He goes there with a vampire hunter without telling Iba or Ryoko. Meanwhile, Professor Willard and the Jerez arrive at the Sir's village. The village destroyed 10 years ago. Their goal is to search for documents that tell them more about the ship. They reach the underground vault. In an old legend, the villagers had a king with a strange power who invented a legendary box that grants wishes. This box was called the Cyrus ship. Beneath the village is a tomb for the royal family, and from its appearance, vampires never entered it. Professor Willard finds drawings on the wall and then opens a secret door leading to the underground room. It's a sanctuary designed for the Sir's tribe, the same place where the ship was made. The ship isn't there, but the secret behind it surely is. He reads the book on the wall that the sphere is an essential element to open the ship's lock. They quickly find what they need and hurry to Yoli. Yoli continues along the path and finds the scientist with dozens of super weapons. He looks like he got funding and increased production. He says to Yoli, what will you do against all of them? Soldiers attack at the same time. They don't only attack with bodies, they come with weapons that fire. The scientist says, what do you think of my latest inventions? I'm the only one who can save the vampire race. They are on the verge of extinction due to a strange disease that makes them bleed and then go berserk and kill everyone around them. That's why Graf searches for the Cyrus ship. He wants to use it to cure vampires. Yoli has an idea and jokes that'll hit his teammates so they can't win. The repeated blows cause ground tremors and the mountain collapses. Everyone falls except Yoli and the vampire hunter. Fortunately, the scientist dies and they proceed until they reach the cave with the inscriptions in the red lake. Yoli enters the water without hesitation and feels the pain increase. He draws upon Sir's power to continue. Suddenly, the water explodes and swallows him. He opens his eyes under the water and sees scattered memories. Memories of his father's life in the village, his protecting his children Mika and Yoli, and his meeting with the old man who told him to hide the ship. The old man tells him that hiding the ship will protect the village and the Sur's clan because the island is a home and beginning for the Sur's lineage, the best place to seal the ship, but sealing it required royal blood. He knew the truth but remained determined. I must protect the village and its people. He took the Cyrus ship and embarked on his journey. At the place where he sealed the ship, he sacrificed his life to lock it away. Yaoi awakens to find his father before him, who says, "You now know everything and there's no point in your existence." Yaoi asks, "Will you remain like this?" The father replies, "The seal is me. I'm the one who guards the ship." Yaoi says, "What did we gain? My village was destroyed and our people all died. What did the seal accomplish?" The father answers, "Peace. The ship would not only affect the Sur's tribe, it could affect the entire world. Sealing it was the best choice." Yaoi answers, "No, that's not the best choice. We could use the Cyrus ship for good. The Sur's tribe could save the world." The father says, "If that's what you want, then proceed. It may achieve what I could not." Suddenly light bursts from the cave and shoots into the sky. Everyone sees it, including the vampires who were waiting for this moment. Why Graf says to Mika, "I'd let you act as you wish, but now the situation has changed." He controls Mika completely and he loses control. "Your mission is to exterminate the last Surs." Wib and others head there as well. The Jurez team heads there too. Yaoi obtains the Cyrus ship, which turned out to be a sphere. Ryoko and Ba are among the first to arrive and warn Yaoi to be careful as the ship approaches. Yaoi replies that he'll handle it. The vampire hunter says, "Wait, I came with you because I want the ship. Hand it to me and I'll spare your friend." The hunter actually works for the British Army. Yaoi asks, "Are you in the army?" He says, "I told you I smell a vampire on you." Indeed, the hunter turns into a vampire. He asks, "Why did you work with me knowing I'm a vampire?" Yaoi replies, "Your eyes. I think your story was true. You lost all your friends and vampires turned you into one of them." Yaoi is affected by his words and says, "Take your friend. My goal is to stop vampires from getting the Cyrus ship. If your goal matches mine, we can cooperate." Yaoi exits the cave and finds the twins waiting. They ask, "Where's the cowboy who was with you?" The others wait behind Yaoi, not believing what they've seen. He sees Mika advancing on him and says to him, "Hand me the ship." He attacks him and Yaoi tries to stop him and the twins join him. The three of them face Yaoi, who even the defense is unable to continue. He is stabbed in the shoulder. "Give me the ship quickly." He pulls it away and covers it with Yuli's blood. Then he throws it at the twins. They try to return to Graf, but the fallen one grabs the first one and shoots her in the head, destroying her. Then he chases the second one. Mika is still continuing and trying to kill Yaoi. He says to him, "I met our father." The words are a spray. I give him a leg that pushes him away. "I promised our father that we would save the world." He continues the battle against him. Not a single word reaches him. His mind is completely absent in this situation. There is no solution but to kill him. Suddenly, Yaoi loses his balance and Mika saves him. He comes to his senses for a second, but he attacks again. "Why did you come? Because of you, the vampires will take the ship." He says to him, "I promised our father that I would use the ship for the right reasons." Humans, but suddenly Mika coughs up blood. What happened to him? The hunter is still chasing the twins and hands her a bullet. The ship flies from her hands. He says to her, "Thank you for the gift," but behind him, he hears a voice. Yagraf Yaoi takes Mika and tries to get out of the cave. "Mika, the disease has struck the vampires, and in order to get out of the control of Yagraf, I have infected myself with the disease." He hears the sound of a shot from outside. He goes out and finds the hunter stabbed in the heart, killing him. His body turns to ash. He drifts away and says to Yaoi, "Thank you for the help. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to reach Cyrus's ship. Unfortunately, she will die before she sees the ship's power." Yaoi runs towards him, but he flies away and returns to the balloon, leaving him with the water vampire soldiers. Mika says to Yaoi, "Wait, I'll deal with him. The most important thing is that you protect your friends." Suddenly, Yara appears and opens the cannons on them, destroying the Jeremy squad. They arrive and are hit, sending them to the ground. Mika takes advantage of the chaos and heads to the balloon. He also takes his place there at the time when Professor Willard was able to actually reach the three of them. They head to Graf, who is reciting the spell to wake up Cyrus's ship. After that, he swallows to absorb all the power into his body. Mika enters the area and finds vampires. He hears Graf saying to him, "The ship is late. It has become a part of me." Willard sees Yaoi approaching the ship, so he goes to the control room and kills all the soldiers in it, but he is injured. He descends the balloon for a while and allows Yaoi to ride with them. Graf says to Mika, "I have finally acquired the power." The girl says to him, "So you will finally cure the vampire disease?" He says to her, "Why should I do this? I've already passed the level of vampires." Mika attacks, but reacts and with his blow sticks in the wall says what a creature like me can eat now, grabs a vampire from his side and sucks his blood. He says, "What is this filth I think? At my current level, I can't drink less than noble blood." He pulls the girl to suck her blood, but Yaoi arrives. He says the ship belongs to Sis. He told him wrong. "The ship is mine now. I sealed it inside me. Its power became mine alone. I plan to control the powerful vampires to lead the world." Suddenly, he feels dizzy, his body is getting bigger, and he gradually loses control and literally turns into a monster. His current body is unable to contain the power of the ship. He kills the vampires around him and then attacks Mika. Is he targeting vampires or what Professor Willard says? It's over. Rafe disappeared. The ship is taking control of him completely. Willard says to Yuli, I brought you something and gives Chief Basement. This ball is not mentioned in the old documents, and that's because the royal family is the only one who knew about it. Use it and you will be able to control the power of the ship. Grav grabs Mika and sticks his face to the wall. He pulls out his fangs, but Yuli flies away. His hand regenerates in a second. The brothers face each other, but every injury regenerates quickly. Not only is his regeneration power this, but his strikes are terrifyingly strong. Yuli stabs the sword into his back, and at that moment he finds his body searching. Regeneration is no longer useful. The ship has entered the body destruction stage. He tries to escape, but Yuli Beach is stuck in it. Grav holds his hand. They fly, but Mika comes flying to him and saves him. The two of them fly. He runs and stabs him with the sword in his stomach, and Mika stabs his hand in his eye and pulls the ship from it. Finally, with a sword strike, he separates his head from his body. Grav is eliminated and Cyrus's ship is restored. Mika says to Yuli, the ship is yours. You are the last survivor of Cyrus and I am just a vampire. A vampire says his words the last one and the ship of Circe dies and the ball merges with each other. And at that moment the professor sees Yuli's new form, his form after he took the power of the ship. He says to the professor, I have a request. If the ship takes control of me, tell me I do not want to turn into a copy of Y-Graph, and Yuli disappears. The professor wakes up and finds himself in the hospital. He woke up 4 days later because the balloon crashed to the ground. The problem is that Yuli is not there. No one knows where he is since he took the power of the ship of Circe, and Abe informs the army judge of the power of the ship of Circe, and that it disappeared with Yuli. And the same report reaches Britain. Everyone is sure that they will not be able to take the power of the ship without one of the tribe of Circe. So they surrendered and left their mines. The ship and the group of the Gears are still continuing their mission. And Yuli moved from one place to another, helping people until he decided to help the vampires and treat the epidemic in exchange for a promise that they will not target humans again. And that's it. That was all those of us. Tell us in the comments your evaluation of the anime. I say it is a good anime. By God, a 7. I want to know your opinion. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. We will see you in a new video. Bye.